Hello everyone, my name is Braden, this is Airless Quill 9, and in today's video, we are going to talk about the Death Tyrant. These are undead beholders. The Death Tyrant is simply a beholder that has pursued aberrant goals beyond its death. 10 magical singularities, all that remains of its magical eyes, orbit its floating cyclopean skull, while the hateful gaze of its central eye socket stifles life and raises the dead. Beholders typically transform into death tyrants over years when their dreams fixate on death, morbid apotheoses, or journeys to realms inhospitable to life. Some death tyrants rise from the corpses of slain beholders, or result from exposure to strange magic or underdark radiation. Sometimes beholders purposefully pursue this undead state, such as depraved magic users pursue lichdom, although it is rare, as most beholders already believe themselves to be perfect beings. No matter how Death Tyrants come into being, bizarre impulses drive their deathless existences. Their motivations tend to be extreme or beyond the reason of living creatures. And because Death Tyrants often lurk deep in the Underdark, the tunnel mazes they occupy in life or in the layers of enemy beholders they conquered, these layers have become devoid of life as Death Tyrants change their servants into undead horrors. We can see here that the region containing a Death Tyrant's lair is warped by its presence, trading the following effects. The first of these is a negative energy suffusion. Whenever a creature within 1 mile of the lair regains hit points from a spell, it subtracts 1d10 from the number of hit points regained, which is quite interesting. And then in relation to the Death Tyrant being a beholder, it also has this scopophobia, in which creatures within 1 mile of the lair feel as if they're being watched. Because of this, any creature excluding the Death Tyrant and its allies that finishes a short rest while within 1 mile of the lair must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw or gain no benefit from that rest. Of course, if the Death Tyrant dies or it moves its lair elsewhere, these effects immediately end in that particular region. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2024 Death Tyrant. So the Death Tyrant is a large undead, and it has the parentheses, beholder. So you remember that it is, of course, a beholder. Of course, the Death Tyrant is lawful evil. It has an armor class of 19, a plus 12 to initiative, 195 hit points, a speed of 5 feet, a fly speed of 40 feet, it can hover. Ability scores, it has a strength of 18, a dexterity of 14, a constitution of 14, an intelligence of 19, a wisdom of 15, and a charisma of 19. It is also proficient in Constitution and Wisdom saving throws. It has a plus 12 to Perception. For immunities, it is immune to the poison damage type, as well as the Charmed, Exhaustion, Paralyzed, Petrified, Poisoned, and Prone conditions. For senses, it has Dark Vision of 120 feet, a Passive Perception of 22, and the languages that it knows are Deep Speech and Undercommon. Challenge rating, it is a challenge rating 14. This gives it 11,500 experience points. However, if the Death Tyrant is encountered in its lair, it grants 13,000 experience points instead. And the Death Tyrant has a proficiency bonus of plus 5. In relation to that, for its traits, the Death Tyrant has a legendary resistance. It has either 3 per day or 4 per day if encountered in its lair, which is quite nice. As a multi-attack, the Death Tyrant uses Eye Raise 3 times. Of course, the Death Tyrant does have a bite attack. This is a melee attack roll plus 9 to hit, reach of 5 feet. On a hit, it deals 2d8 plus 4 piercing damage. And then for the eye rays, the Death Tyrant will randomly shoot one of the following magical eye rays at a target that it can see within 120 feet of itself. We have to roll a d10 to determine which eye ray, and we re-roll if the Death Tyrant has already used that ray during this turn. So no doubles, unfortunately. The first ray is the Charm Ray. This is a Wisdom saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, it deals 3d8 psychic damage, and the target has the Charm condition for 1 hour or until it takes damage. And on a success, it takes half damage. Paralyzed Ray. This is a Constitution saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, the target has the paralyzed condition and repeats the save at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. After 1 minute, it succeeds automatically. Number 3 is the Fear Ray. This is a Wisdom saving throw, DC 17. Failure, it takes 3d6 psychic damage, and the target has the Frightened condition until the end of its next turn. On a success, it takes half damage only. Slowing Ray is number 4. This is a Constitution saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, the target takes 48 necrotic damage, and until the end of the target's next turn, the target can't take reactions, its speed is halved, and it can take either an action or a bonus action on its turn, not both. And on a success, it only takes half damage. Number 5 is the Enervation Ray. This is a Constitution saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, it deals 3d10 poison damage, and the target has the Poison condition until the end of its next turn. While poisoned, the target can't regain hit points. On a success, the target takes half damage only. Number 6 is the Telekinetic Ray. This is a Strength saving throw, DC 17. The target succeeds automatically if it is gargantuan. On a failure, the Death Tyrant moves the target up to 30 feet in any direction. The target has the Restrained condition until the start of the Death Tyrant's next turn, or until the Death Tyrant has the Incapacitated condition. The Death Tyrant can also exert fine control on objects with this ray, such as manipulating a tool or opening a door or container. Number 7 is Sleep Ray. This is a Wisdom saving throw at DC 17. The target succeeds automatically if it is a construct or an undead, so keep that in mind. On a failure, the target has the unconscious condition for 1 minute. The condition ends if the target takes damage or a creature within 5 feet of it takes an action to wake it. Number 8 is Petrification Ray. This is a Constitution saving throw, DC 17. On the first failure, the target has the Restrained condition and repeats the save at the end of its next turn if it is still restrained, ending the effect on itself on a success. On a second failure, the target has the Petrified condition instead of the Restrained condition. Number 9 is Disintegration Ray. This is a Dexterity saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, the target takes 8d8 force damage. If the target is a non-magical object, or a creation of magical force, a 10-foot cube of it disintegrates into dust. On a success, the target takes half damage, and on a failure or success, if the target is a creature and this damage reduces it to 0 hit points, it disintegrates into dust. Finally, number 10 is the Death Ray. This is a Dexterity saving throw, DC 17. On a failure, the target takes 10d10 necrotic damage, and on a success, they take half damage. Then, on a failure or success, the target automatically dies if the ray reduces it to 0 hit points. So, yeah, a lot of eye ray options there, and very differing effects for each of those. As a bonus action, the Death Tyrant has a negative energy cone. This says that the Death Tyrant's central eye emits an imperceptible magical wave of necrotic energy in a 150-foot cone. Creatures in the area can't regain hit points until the start of the Death Tyrant's next turn. An intact humanoid corpse there instantly rises as a zombie under the Death Tyrant's control and takes its turn immediately after the Death Tyrant on the same initiative count. Finally, we move on to legendary actions. The Death Tyrant has 3 legendary action uses, or 4 if encountered in its lair, and those options are Chomp, allowing the Death Tyrant to make 2 bite attacks with the same legendary action, or it can use Glare, which allows it to use eye rays. So yeah, there's a lot happening in this stat block, and it's hard to really say what changes have been made to the stat block itself without going into the actual stat block changes. So we are going to take a look at both of these stat blocks and talk about the changes that have been made here. So first off, we can see here they have added in that tag that the Death Tyrant is a beholder, which is nice. Next is that massive initiative bonus that they have added in here, because it is now double proficient in initiative rolls, which is quite a nice change. You can also see here that the Death Tyrant has gained an additional hit die from its 2014 counterpart, so it has gained some additional hit points because of that. Next is it does have a walking speed of 5 feet now, and that 20-foot fly speed has now doubled to a 40-foot fly speed, which is quite nice. In addition, in the ability scores section, the Death Tyrant has gained some changes here. First off is that increase to its strength score. It used to be 10, it is now an 18. It did lose its strength saving throw proficiency, and in the intelligence and charisma, it has lost those and stuff and saving throws as well. So that is something to keep in mind. However, the Death Tyrant does have that additional experience when encountered in its lair, which it did not have before. It also has gained those legendary resistances, 3 per day or 4 per day in its lair, which is quite nice. So that kind of helps with the loss of those saving throw proficiencies. We can also see here that the negative energy cone used to be a trait, and it is now a bonus action that the Death Tyrant uses. So that just helps with the action economy and makes it so that you don't have to have the negative energy cone active all the time if it's not prevalent in the combat you're running. But it does help clear up the action economy just a little bit by making that a bonus action ability now. Multi-attack, of course, is entirely new. Beforehand, the eye rays action used to say that the Death Tyrant shot 3 of them, so that has now become a multi-attack, and eye rays is now just a action that it can use. Bite, of course, has seen some improvements, namely to the bonus to hit. The damage has also changed slightly. It used to be 46 damage, it is now 2d8 plus 4. So it's roughly the same average damage in relation, but it has changed slightly there. Next, we have all the changes to eye rays. Really, the main changes here are that Charm Ray now deals psychic damage, which it did not before. So, and that is the same to the Fear Ray and the Slowing Ray, as well as the Enervation Ray, I think. No, the Enervation Ray did deal damage. So Charm Ray, Fear Ray, and Slowing Ray have had damage tacked onto them. And the Fear Ray and Slowing Ray now only last until the end of the target's next turn. Beforehand, they used to last a full minute. But that's not a huge change since they do deal damage now. So honestly, it's kind of a give and get there. But nice to see that there's some extra damage options available here in these eye rays. The next massive change here is Enervation Ray. Used to be 8d8 necrotic damage. It is now only 3d10 damage, and the damage type has changed to poison. But it does now poison the target as well until the end of its next turn and prevents the target from regaining hit points while it's poisoned. So Enervation Ray is basically just an entirely new option now because of that. So yeah, not a whole lot to say there. It's just completely different now. So something to keep in mind. Telekinetic Ray did gain a slight debuff in that the target automatically succeeds on the saving throw if it is gargantuan. However, the likelihood of a player character being gargantuan is probably not gonna happen, so not really a debuff. This is mostly just to help with the Death Tyrant fighting probably other creatures. But yeah, that's just an additional thing that they've added there. Petrification Ray did used to be a dexterity saving throw. It is now a constitution saving throw, which is a slight change there. They did add in something to the actual text though, and that is that the target only makes the second saving throw if it is still restrained on its next turn, or at the end of its next turn. So if you are able to cast a spell or do something to the target of the petrification ray that removes the restrained condition from it, I would have to assume then that it doesn't make that second saving throw at the end of its next turn. So that's kind of a small nerf to petrification ray, but I like that that's an additional option in there because it does give the players something to do to try to prevent that from happening. So I like that small change there. And the disintegration ray, the damage has changed here. It used to be 10d8 force damage. It is now 8d8 force damage. So there is a small damage decrease there. However, it did gain a massive boon in that the target now takes half damage if they succeed on the saving throw. Beforehand, they took 0 damage if they succeeded. So that is a nice change there. So I'm not really going to diss the damage decrease since we do get half damage on a successful save. So that is nice to see. I like that change. And then in relation to that, Death Ray also has had it added in that the target takes half damage when they succeed on the saving throw. So that's also a nice change to the Death Ray. So either way, you're going to be taking damage, whether you succeed or fail. So nice that the I-rays are now reliable, and the fact that there is still a success option for most of these rays. The only ones that don't have that are the telekinetic ray, the sleep ray, the petrification ray, and the paralyzing ray, which makes sense. So now all the damage option rays will deal half damage on a success. So that is very nice to see, and I do appreciate that change. Other than that, the only other changes here, besides the negative energy cone now being a bonus action rather than something that happens at the start of each of the Death Tyrant's turns, is in the legendary action section. The Death Tyrant now has an additional legendary action use when encountered in its lair, which is not something to scoff at. That's pretty great. And then the Death Tyrant has gotten some additional legendary action options. There, of course, is that Glare, which allows the Death Tyrant to use its eye ray. This is just a name change from the 2014 version. It used to just be called eye ray. Now it's called Glare, which is fine. I like the name change. But the really interesting one there is the Chomp legendary action, allowing the Death Tyrant to make 2 bite attacks. And so the bite attack is now has a impressive plus to hit and deals a decent amount of damage. Being able to make 2 bite attacks with the same legendary action against a melee combatant is going to be pretty great, and I really like that change there. So overall here, I think the Death Tyrant has actually seen some major benefits, and I do think the small changes that could be considered nerfs don't really outweigh the bonuses that the Death Tyrant has gotten in this revision. So yeah, I really like the changes that they've done here, and I think this Death Tyrant is going to be lasting a lot longer in combat than the previous version. So yeah, that's going to be it for the Death Tyrant though. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this on the channel. Next on our list for videos coming out tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Demi-Lich, which has seen some massive changes to its stat block. So keep an eye out for that video. Until then, though, thank you all for watching, and we will catch you all in the next one. I will see you later.